Hello, hello, Katie. I am so excited to have you on the podcast today. This is a new introduction for me and for our listeners. Maybe you've heard of her. Katie Hunt is with us from Proof to Product. So I would love for you to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Kellee, first off, thank you so much for having me. It's just already in our pre-chat to this interview. It was already been so fun. So thank you for inviting me and welcoming to your space here. But to all your listeners, hello, I'm Katie Hunt. I am the founder and CEO of a company called Proof to Product. We help product-based business owners get their products on the shelves of stores big and small. So our alumni sell to Target and Anthropologie. They sell to Container Store, J. Crew, Starbucks, but they also, the bread and butter of who their strong wholesale relationships are with are the independent boutiques located all around the world. So we have a lot of different ways that people can learn from us. I've got my podcast called Proof to Product. It's available wherever you're listening to Kellee's show here. We also have a free resource library for different things that people can dip their toe in. If they're curious about how to productize their art and really move not just in a direct-to-consumer fashion, but also wholesale, we've got lots of resources for you. So.
I am so excited to talk about this because I think most artists have a dream of seeing their work out into the world. And some, maybe it's a museum. But for me, I never had my eyes set on the MoMA or the Met or whatever. I was like, can I have my art on a mug in every home in America? That would be awesome. I loved Mary Englebright, the fact that she just was everywhere and abundant growing up.
Yes.
I just thought that was an exciting way to connect more globally rather than in every artist has a different dream. For me, I wish I had found you a decade ago when you were this has been more than 10 years now that you've been doing
we launched this in 2011. So a little backstory here. I had my own art business. I was selling stationery and office goods. So we did notepads and journals and book plates and greeting cards and things like that. And I really dove headfirst into that business. Within the first 6 months, I was exhibiting at an international trade show. I was selling my products to store. I knew straight away that wholesale was how I wanted to run this. I should also mention at that point in my life, I was having my second baby I had two babies under 2 years old, and I had a corporate day job where I was leading business development and marketing teams. So this was something I did in the fringe hours of the day and the night, and, just trying to make it so that I could have more flexibility in my life. And so I had that business for a long time, but as I was growing my product business, I looked around and I was friends with all of these incredible artists, talented, creative minds. And the things that they would talk to me about that they were struggling with were things that were on the business side. And that was where I thrived. I had this corporate background. I have 2 MBAs, one in marketing and one in finance. I thrive on the business side of things. And I was struggling. I was a self-taught artist. So I was struggling with the mechanics of creating my art and maintaining that creativity, things that they were thriving in. So it was really fascinating to me to look around and be like, oh my gosh, I can help you with this and you can help me with that. And together our businesses will grow much faster because we'll have each other's support. And how do we do this on a wider scale too? And so that was really how Proof to Product was born. It started as 4 teleconference calls, Kellee.
Wow.
Yeah. It was $25. Come join the call. We're going to chat with an expert in the industry. We're going to ask them all of our questions. Mm-hmm. And then it grew into webinars. It grew into an online course, a membership. We've got our podcast, of course. So it evolved just from the idea that together we can grow faster and easier. We'll avoid mistakes that each other have made, and we can really lean on each other's skills and strengths too in our own business. So that's kind of the backstory there too. But yeah, it's been a long time. So that was in 2011 we started. I started my product business in 2008. In 2016, I had to make some really tough choices. And that's when I let go of the manufacturing arm. That was the year I had my 4th baby, and I went all in on Proof to Product. So yeah, we've been doing this a while, but it's been an evolution. Business is always an evolution. I know, Kellee, you're going through your own evolutions too in your business.
Yeah, I totally resonate with what you're saying because we do have to evolve to one degree or another. There are always new iterations coming from where we started to where we are.
Yes.
And what resonated with me a lot about what you were saying is how we grow together and how we can collaborate, how we can rise each other up, which is a real core value of how I've been running my business this whole time. And the fact that you start small, you start with something as little as a Zoom conference, or I don't even know if
Zoom wasn't even a thing back then. Not to make myself sound ancient, but no, Instagram wasn't a thing at that time.
Yeah.
Everybody was connecting on Twitter at the time. And I used GoToWebinar because that was what was available. There was not the online education world has evolved so much. But my point is just, I echo what you say of we need to start with what we have access to or availability. And we need to just get that ball rolling because action begets more action, and progress begets more progress, and everything is a step forward.
Yeah, and it takes time. However, in 2023, it's easier than it ever was before. Like the tools that
Yeah.
are available to me, like is just so completely opposite from where it was in the 2000s and early 20
Uh-huh.
teens. Like from everything from Canva and Teachable and whatever, Instagram to build your business, Pinterest, you name it. Now we're all on YouTube and TikTok and however it is that we show up. But the actual ability to get this kind of information of how we can get our products manufactured and into whether it's small boutique retailers or larger
Yeah.
businesses, like that knowledge was not easy to come by when I
No.
started as an artist.
And frankly, we're not gatekeeping by any means, but I would still say that good, concrete how-tos of how to sell wholesale are not widely available. I mean, we have a ton of free resources to help people get started, but we have a core program that teaches everything from A to Z because it's not something you can just Google every aspect of. I mean, I know Google covers everything, but there's nuance to it too. And the industry is changing so rapidly too. So anyhow, I'm off on a little bit of a tangent here, but I agree with you. It's incredible how many resources are available to us now, how many tools, how many shortcuts. I mean, and business cannot be shortcutted, friends, but like there are things that can make our lives easier and make things more manageable, I guess, for all of
Yeah,
us.
I really think like, yes, we can Google it, we can watch a YouTube video, but there's nothing like actually having a mentor you can trust that's going to give you honest information,
True.
and a community that surrounds that really builds you up much faster. So yeah, all the
100%.
information might be, you might be able to find it, but are you getting quality information? Are you getting the fastest path to where you want to go with the best knowledge? And so yeah, it's worth paying for, in my opinion. The education that I've invested in, I really see it as a business investment, and it's
Same.
helped me grow immensely. So having like whether the resource is something that's widely available and free, which there really was nothing. I searched wholesale for a long time and I finally just gave up. So that's why I'm in a completely different world now.
Yeah. Well,
But
and that ties back to what we had access about, or what we had access to, rather, what we had knowledge about. That's what led our decisions in business back then. Because, okay, well, how do I figure this out? We did a lot of trial and error. Were reading a lot of
mhm,
blog posts at the time, but even that is just a small glimpse into the larger window of what's possible.
right.
And, there's so many different ways that you can make money selling your creative art, whether that's selling a physical product direct to consumer, meaning to the retail market, whether that's selling it wholesale, whether that's licensing your work, whether it's doing custom work or larger pieces that are one-off. There's so many opportunities out there. And I think one thing, I'd be curious your take on this, Kellee. I think sometimes that's overwhelming to people and then they don't know which path to take. Do you agree with that?
This has been one of the biggest stumbling blocks I find with all of my clients, my customers, those, especially those that I'm coaching, is, how do I narrow it down to what works best for me? So yeah, you kind of have to know yourself really
Mhm.
well, what lights you up and what path would work best for you, for the type of art you make, for your vision of whether it's going to be a paper product or a mug or a shirt or wild and out of the box. There's always like really unique ideas on how you can productize your creativity. And in my case, it's like, do you teach art courses? Do you want to go and travel and teach abroad? Do you want to help people organize their studio? I'm like, there's so many ways we can hone in on our creativity and live in this creative, beautiful creative bubble that we want to live in all the time and do it in a unique and different way. I think the part that's really exciting with the product and with what you offer is that you streamline what those possibilities are so people can see more clearly,
Yeah.
what are my options? How do I, not just how do I do this, but like what would make sense for me? And I know that I rely a lot on community as I'm trying to develop new ideas and products and offers or whatnot, like what resonates with other people, where do they see? And
Mhm.
then let it sit with me and see how it feels and see what's right. So when you have someone like you as a mentor, and then you have a whole community gathered around that, you really have the kind of support that you can't get when you're like a lonely solo art
100%.
art,
100%.
I'm like, it makes all the difference in the world. So I would love to hear, like, where would someone even get started besides making fabulous art? Let's just assume everyone's
Yeah.
listening. They've kind of honed in on the kind of art that they love to make. They have a distinguished style. I really feel like
Yeah.
that's probably your number one most important thing, to be noticed no matter what the business is. You kind of have to like cut off the edges, narrow your niche a little. Doesn't mean that you have to cut your whole heart and soul out and do one thing solely forever, but something recognizable that you're confident in showing up with. Then what would be the next thing that they would
So
want to consider?
Yes. So we teach a 4-part framework in our Paper Camp program. Paper Camp is where we do a deep dive into how to wholesale, how to know if you're ready, and then how to proceed with that. And so I will run you through those 4 things. But I also wanted to tell your listeners, if they're on the fence about whether or not wholesale is something they're interested in doing, I do have a free class called Is Wholesale Right for You? It's in our resource library, which is at prooftoproduct.com/resources. There's some other fun things in there too, but look for the one that's called Is Wholesale Right for You? Because that will take you through several questions to ask yourself. I'll explain kind of the pros and cons and what you need to have ready and kind of things you need to think on as the business owner of, is this the revenue stream I want to go for? And if it is, then you would come to Paper Camp, where I would teach you our 4 essentially pillars of how to sell wholesale successfully. And you hit the nail on the head, Kellee. The first step is your product. We not only want to make sure that you have a strong product line and that it's cohesive and well thought out and designed beautifully, but also we walk you through, is it sized right? Is it priced right for wholesale? Can you make this at scale? If you had an order come in for 1,000 units, could you fulfill that order? And if not, let's get that going. And here's how to do that. So we look at your product line first, because if we don't have a solid product line with healthy profit margins, there is no sense in us doing the rest of the wholesale gig. Like the next 3 parts I tell you are kind of obsolete at this point. So we focus on our product first.
So do you guide people in deciding what products to make? And, because so that whole wholesale line is like a stumbling block right there for many people who are like, I don't even know where to start with the wholesale stuff. Like, I made some paintings, now what?
So we don't art direct or provide creative critiques for our students, but what we do provide are vendor recommendations for different manufacturers. We provide sample pricing for different types of product categories. We work with a wide range of brands, everyone selling paper goods, candles, home decor, textiles, apparel. So we do provide a wide range of examples and sample pricing and details for different types of industries. So we kind of expect that people are coming in with a general sense of what they would like to create, the types of products, but we will help to make sure that that product line is strong and situated well for wholesale before we take them into the second step, which is sales. Now, when we talk about sales, there's a couple of key components people need to be successful in wholesale. The first one is a wholesale catalog. And a lot of people that come from like a licensing or fine art background mix this up with what would be a portfolio or a lookbook or things like that. Really, your catalog's main job is to sell your products. So what we put into that wholesale catalog is very different. We're putting our wholesale terms and conditions, which is another piece of the sales process. And we tell you exactly what you need to have laid out in your wholesale sales and terms and conditions. But that goes into the catalog. Images go into the catalog. All of the details a buyer needs to knowledgeably place an order with you goes into that catalog. So it truly is, I mean, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to display who you are and what you sell, but it's also going to be a functional sales tool that they can look at. Okay, how much am I going to need to spend with this brand? How many SKUs am I going to need to pick out? All of those details go into the catalog. We also talk about where to sell wholesale. What kind of sales platforms? Do you want to do it on your own website? Do you want to do it on a third-party platform like Fair? We kind of talk through the pros and cons of that and how to set that up. We also talk about working with sales representatives. So there are people that will go and sell your products to stores for you. And we talk about what that process looks like, how much it costs, when you might be ready to do that. So that's the sales section. We do a lot of like, now we've got your product ready. Let's make sure that all the sales pieces you need to put your best foot forward are ready so that you look polished and professional. I don't care if you're brand new to this, you're going to look like you've been doing it for ages. And also, if you're in expansion mode, how do we either leverage new sales platforms or a new sales team, or what do we do there? So we've got stuff for starters and scalers in there. The third piece of this is marketing. So now we've got our product ready, our sales tools are ready. Now we need to get the word out and talk to stores and really identify which stores would be the best fit for the products that we're selling. So in that section, we talk about building out your mailing list, how to do your outreach to cold leads, how to nurture your existing accounts so that they're reordering more frequently and we're increasing our average order value. There's a lot of things that we can do on the marketing side, social media, trade shows, all these different things. But really what I try to focus on initially with the wholesale outreach is the email piece, because that is yielding the highest ROI. And that is it's something that people can systematize and use templates for. And we have really great resources available to people. So you don't have to sit down with a blank sheet or a blank screen rather, and write your emails. We'll give you those templates, but really it's the product, the sales, the marketing. And then we do in our paper camp program talk specifically about trade shows just because it's a huge undertaking. But that fourth real piece of this is your operations. What are your systems, your fulfillment? How are you managing the back end of your business to ensure that you're able to support all these different stores that want to carry your product? So that sounds very simplified, and it is, but those are kind of the four core pillars that we go through to teach people how to have a strong wholesale program.
That is so much more than I ever even imagined what we would be able to get out of one program. That's like phenomenal. Like,
Yeah.
so it actually opens up so many more questions to me. Like, so do I need a warehouse, and do I need to house all of these things that I've manufactured to get out the door, or are there other solutions to that?
There are other solutions. I would say it is expected if you're going to sell wholesale that you have inventory. This is not a print on demand situation where if somebody places an order, you're going to go manufacture it and send it out. If you are planning to wholesale, you should plan to have inventory on hand. Now, with certain product types, this is easier to do. It's less financial risk than others. I mean, if we're talking mugs or candles or, even apparel, those things have to be manufactured in larger quantity, and they're bulky and they break. The candles and the mugs can break. So there's that kind of stuff that you need to consider. But most people in our community, most of them started solo entrepreneurs. They're working out of their home. I was working out of my home for a very long time. Sometimes they'll then layer in some people to come do fulfillment and shipping out of their home. And I would say many in our community are doing warehousing or using a fulfillment company and things like that. But that's further down the line. You don't need to jump into that straight away. I always encourage people to start small, figure out what works for you, and then we can scale up as we need to. But let's be conservative with our spending and do the things we need to do right now.
Yeah. So my next question would be around like the first phase, which is where most of the people listening right now who haven't actually jumped into product manufacturing and everything.
Yeah.
And I love that your offer really helps spell it out and then connect people with those opportunities, which is priceless, right? Then and there is priceless.
Oh yeah. That was my
Like
biggest
that.
hurdle when I was getting started. I didn't know where to manufacture things. I
Yeah.
didn't know what questions to ask. I didn't know how much I was going to expect to spend. They say, what's your budget? And I'm like, deer in headlights. I don't know. What do I need to spend to make this product?
Right. Exactly. Like, and then how would I ever even find like the manufacturing part alone? I like tried to research that once on my own and got nowhere. So just,
Yeah.
I think that's gold, how to get the product made and then who to contact and then how to make it all look beautiful. So it's so enticing, whether you've ever sold anything or not. And so I want to go back to that first part, how you're ready for this. Like, besides the fact that, like, I really believe that when you're ready to make a career out of your creativity, you have some mastery of it. You're like at that professional enough level. Like, I'm not saying that you have to have gotten a degree at all, but I do remember like this story. I was teaching art. It was a class on how to paint these like really cute little seascapes that I was doing. And one of the students, they were all just like people who are coming in to have fun and play. But she was like, I want to learn how to do this because I want to make money. And I'm going to turn around right after taking this class and I'm going to sell these. And I'm like, you haven't even made one of them yet. So I always am like, take some time, make 100, then make 1,000, like just spend some time making sure you've mastered the craft. So we've already established the listeners have been making art for ages and they know their stuff in and out. How do they know that next step? Like, I'm assuming then we've got like high quality resolution files. We have to decide what the product is. We have to know like what's the theme and the genre. Do you help people with that?
So in week 2, when we talk about sales, I do catalog audits. And when I do those catalog audits, I'm looking at kind of what we discussed a few minutes ago of the structure of their catalog. Do they have all the sales pieces they need in there? But I'm also providing some critique on their collection as a whole. Here's the other thing I didn't mention earlier. When you sell wholesale, you need to have a large enough collection that store owners can pick and choose from what you're selling and still put together a sizable order. If you only have a small number of SKUs, a small number of product items, they're going to have to purchase everything you sell in order to hit your opening order amount. And unfortunately, that's just not how it works. Like, no one is going to ever come in and buy everything that we're offering. And so, one of the things we talk about in that first module is we want you to have at least 48 different SKUs so that buyers can pick and choose. They can meet your opening order amount. They can merchandise it well in their shop. There's a lot of benefits to this. But back to your question here, I always encourage people to focus on products that light them up and excite them personally, because when they're if a mug does not excite them, for example, I know that's come up a couple of times, I don't want them making mugs because
Right.
they're just going to be going through the motions and putting whatever art they have around onto a mug. Whereas if they're excited about art prints and they hang a lot up in their studio, or if they send a lot of greeting cards and they're excited about the messaging that they can add to that, or if, they're really into apparel and fashion and that's what they want to do. Like, I want them to lean into the things they're already interested in, because their art and their products will really shine through that. It's just like anything else we do. If our heart's not in it, or we're not truly excited about it, that's going to come through in our sales and marketing messages and whatever else we're doing. So I hope that answered your question. I kind of went off on a tangent, but
I mean, yes, of course, we want to be able to create a business around what lights us up. Otherwise, yes, we can't show up and talk about it with enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And we know that enthusiasm sells. How do we get to that point of making that decision? Does that happen before you join your program? Do you have other like pre-offers to get people like just, thinking about it and knowing the steps they need to just be ready to start with the whole
Yes. Great point. So yes, we have a membership called Labs, which is our Proof to Product Labs program. And that's more an entry point to our educational platform, where people will come, and that's where they're kind of figuring out which revenue streams are best for them. So we have people in there, again, doing direct to consumer, wholesale, licensing, all sorts of things. They're honing in on their art. We have some very established businesses in there as well. But my point is just, we have some more content there for those just starting out with products, who are trying to identify, what do I want this collection to look like? Which sales streams do I want to pursue with this? And if wholesale is something that they want to pursue, that's where they would then come over and do paper camp with us. So, yeah, the labs program, people can get info there at prooftoproduct.com/labs, but that's where we do, it's more of a community focus. I mean, we do live trainings every quarter. We have great content. We have a vault of old trainings that are still relevant and wonderful, but we also have accountability groups. We have co-working. We have coaches that do coaching calls every single month, myself included. So there's a lot of support in different ways for people doing a wider range of things within their business. I know we get real granular in paper camp on this is wholesale and this is what we're focused on, whereas labs is a little more fluid and allowing you to work on sales, marketing, and general operation type topics.
So really just getting that first proof to product, that first idea, and like solidified. And also, of course, I love the community aspect of that, because that's really like, that's something that I didn't have enough of early on in my career. And so just knowing that there's other people you can, those kinds of accountability groups, people that you can talk to who've already been through the trenches a bit and decided on their brand and their colors and their art and which collections they want to work on and how they're going to put that together to be ready for something like paper camp, which is great. Like, I mean, I think that's a really amazing, significant offer right there. Is that open all the time, or do you have that open for?
Yes, Labs is now open. It will remain open through the rest of the year. I'm chuckling behind my microphone here because we did have it closed for a while, and we've decided for 2023 we're going to keep it open, because I really just want people to be able to get the help they need when they need it most. We do work on quarterly content blocks inside of Labs, where you have a month of learning and then a month of implementation, and then we do a month of like feedback loops, where it's like you have a chance to roundtable what you've been implementing with other people. It seemed to make sense to close it so people could just focus on working. But at the same time, we've had a lot of people that are like, wait, I need the help now. And we don't want to prevent them from getting that help. We don't want them to wait,
Exactly. I think that was a marketing tactic that was taught in some of those membership programs, that when you realize that what you really want is that people can get the information and the access when they need it and not later, that makes sense. So it seems like those who are listening who have already gotten to that point where they know that they want to be wholesaling, they have, their products in mind and they're ready to go for it, paper camp's the right idea.
Yep.
What are some remarkable stories of some of your customers? That's what I'd really love to hear, some of those juicy possibilities. Now, I know that results may vary. As we're listening, everybody's going to have a different journey, but I think when we are open to the possibility, when we're like really, when we have that belief in ourselves, that's really part of my core values, is that really setting your sights and opening yourself up and doing the work. All things are possible. So tell me some of those stories.
Gosh, I have so many stories, because at this point I've coached thousands of people through this process, but there's a couple that come to mind, and they're very different stories. One is Lindsay from Inklings Papery. She is one of our paper camp alumni, and she was exhibiting at her first trade show in New York, and she has a remarkable line. She has a very tight aesthetic. You recognize Lindsay's brand when you see it. And she was going to this show. It was her very first show. She was on a budget, trying to make it really like, and she did a beautiful job of making everything stand out. But my point is, it was her first show. She was nervous. She was putting a lot of financial risk out there, all these things. Well, Lindsay's very personable. And it turns out that she ended up striking up a conversation with someone, and they talked about her product and other things in life. And, we use these experiences at trade shows to really just connect with as many people as we can. That's what I always advise people to do, because you never know who anyone is or where that relationship could take you. Well, it turns out that was somebody high up at Starbucks. And so for the next year and a half, 2 years, Lindsay went to meetings with them. She submitted proposals for different things. She worked very hard to cultivate that relationship. And then her products were carried in 8,000 stores, Starbucks stores, because of that happenstance of meeting. I mean, she was in the right place at the right time, but striking up that conversation and, continuing to follow up with the lead and having a really strong product line and having the strong sales tools, she was ready to have these conversations. And she was in a place where she could easily and confidently negotiate what she wanted to do. And so that was a really wonderful story that I love to share. The other one I like to share is Alex from a company called Chez Garnier. When I started working with Alex, she was doing letterpress greeting cards. She was renting studio space, but her home was her office. So she would joke that her hallways and her, living room were just covered in boxes and inventory everywhere. And she and her fiance at the time would spend, nights folding cards and doing all the things that we have to do to keep our business running, right? Well, Alex, and she came through Paper Camp, and I also coached her one-on-one for a long time. Alex has now expanded tremendously. She went into candles and home decor. She went into hard goods like rocks glasses and martini glasses and things like that. In this past 6 months, she launched a whole beauty and wellness line that includes lotions and bath misters and all sorts of things. She has the warehouse you were talking about, Kellee. She has a team. She is doing phenomenal things. And it's because she continued to show up and do the work and ask the right questions and build the right relationships. And she had the support of myself and our community, but really it was Alex doing that hard work. And so those are two shining examples of people that really followed their goals or their dreams rather, and got into their goal situations. But we also have people that are just hitting, they're hitting 50 stores that they're now in, or they're hitting 100 stores that they're now in. And we're celebrating those successes just as we are celebrating, Lindsay getting into 8,000 Starbucks, or Alex, expanding her product line. And so that just goes to show everything is progress. And I want to encourage your audience to celebrate their wins, big or small, because everything we're doing on a day-to-day basis is ideally taking us closer to that goal that we're trying to hit.
It sounds to me like the most important thing is showing up over and over again,
Yes.
taking the opportunity, having the conversation. And I agree with you. It's like one step upon another step, and this remarkable thing unfolds, right?
Yes.
It's really amazing. I think that I didn't really see that possibility. I tried to get into licensing for a little while, but I would have loved to have come across you, Katie, and met you just a few years ago. Although I love what I'm doing now. I've loved teaching, and I love coaching other artists. I love the marketing aspect of it. And I love especially what you're saying is it's not just being in the right place at the right time. It's being willing to have the conversation, talking passionately about what you create. It's about, continuing to take that next step. And that's really exciting. So tell us, I would love to hear any last words of wisdom or
Sure.
advice from you that artists can get started now, taking that next step.
Sure. So I'm going to go a little bit off of our wholesale discussion here and talk more widely to them as business owners, if that's okay.
Wonderful.
One of the things I teach within our labs program, but throughout all my programs, is there are a million opportunities out there for you. And I know that this is both exciting and overwhelming. And so one of the things I teach is how I make decisions in my business so that other people can start to make similar types of decisions. So I make every decision based on 4 key filters. And the first one is, what is the time involved in this thing? So let me back up. Whether you're considering wholesale or direct to consumer or licensing or creating a specific product, or maybe being invited to speak at something, or whatever it could be a small opportunity or big, but here are the 4 filters I make every decision through. 1, what is the time commitment? What will if in order to say yes to this opportunity, what does that mean I'll need to say no to or adjust in my already busy schedule, right? So what's the time factor? Is it a lot? Is it a little time? What are we looking at there? The second one is heart or energy level. Am I excited about this opportunity? Does it fire me up? Do I want to think about this nonstop and like strategize? Or is it draining me? Does it make me like, oh gosh, I wish I didn't have to do this? Or, oh, really? I have that appointment? Like look at what your energy level is there. What is your heart telling you? What is your gut telling you? And the third filter is money. What are the opportunities that can come about financially from this? Is this something that will bring immediate returns? Is it long-term gains? Is it something that will yield a lot of revenue? Or is it something that is less revenue, but maybe my excitement and heart level is super high for it, so I'm willing to do it even though the money is less? And the fourth thing I consider every opportunity through is impact. What kind of impact will this have on me personally, on the business, on my students, on my community at large, on the world at large? What kind of impact will this opportunity, if I say yes to it, what will that look like? And so I like to share this because oftentimes entrepreneurs like thinking about the possibilities and they're thinking about the time commitment or the money. Those are the two main things people look at, but there's a lot more to it. Our heart and our impact really need to play into all of the decisions we're making, because if we're making educated, informed decisions, not just driven by our capacity or potential revenue that we'll earn, we're going to make more strategic decisions for our business. We're going to love the work we're doing day in and day out, and we'll just grow faster. So I know that's not wholesale specific, but I did want to share that because I think it's a really important lesson for anyone that is in business.
It's an excellent lesson, and it's actually helpful to me, and I'm sure everyone who's listening here, because we do get caught in that, what am I doing right now? What am I doing right now, without the bigger picture. So when we have a way to like judge or analyze the opportunities that come our way or the decisions that we need to make,
Yes.
then it's much more powerful for ourselves to own where we're going with our whole career, and our whole
Yes.
lifestyle. Like, really important that you're talking about that energy and the impact that it makes. Those are really important to me as well. I love to know that whatever I'm putting out into the world makes a difference to people. And of course, the energy and time commitment means, how is that going to affect my family? Because and you and I are the same on this. It's like family first, it's
Mhm.
lifestyle first. Yes, we have all of these hard hurdles to jump and work that we need to put into building this career, but can we do it and still show up for the events? Can we do it and still have time to pick our kids up from school? And I think that that's one thing that's been really amazing about having my own business, about being an entrepreneur, is that I've been able to build a lifestyle. The business goes around the lifestyle. Yes, I work more than 40 hours a week. There's no secret about that. We're not saying that I can do this in 4 hours and I have success, but I look at each of those opportunities and I do weigh them. And just like you said, weighing them with what do I have to say no to? I mean, that's like a
Mhm.
huge thing right there. And I've also noticed sometimes people get caught up in, what am I saying yes to right now? That's actually, they don't think about the future, what they're unable to do in the future because they put all their energy into this now. So they're not
Yes.
prepared for the bigger or better or more juicy thing that's available to them. So being able to analyze it like that really helps you like look at the bigger picture and know what's
Yeah.
right for you. Still, I think it comes down to, what does your gut say, is probably the most important part of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we
But
know the answer and we're not willing to admit it.
that is true. But I find that when I look through those four filters, I can then offset things of like, okay, well, maybe this won't have as much money tied to it, but my energy level is really exciting. And maybe the time is pretty low. So let me do this and see how it goes. And the impact might be high. So, they're levers that we pull, and
Mhm.
everything is going to affect each other. And as you mentioned, there's opportunity costs too. If we say yes to certain things, that means we do have to say no to other things. And what is that opportunity cost? I also just want to echo what you said. We absolutely need to build these businesses around our life. We need to put our life first and then build out the business to support that life that we want to lead. I think less so now, but there was a span of time where, the hustle culture, the grind, everything, that was what everyone talked about. And that is not how you build a sustainable business. Slow, steady growth is how strong businesses are built. Intentional decisions are how strong businesses are built. Just because we're entrepreneurs does not mean we need to be working around the clock and, dropping everything in our personal life to accommodate what the business needs. We're human and we need to put that first. So I know I'm preaching to the choir, Kellee, but I feel very strongly about
No,
that.
it's good. I'm glad, because we have to repeat it so many times till it
Yeah.
like really soaks through, so people on the other end are hearing about it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Katie. I am so glad we finally got to connect. I hope we connect again in the future, because I think I have a lot to learn from you still. And
I would be
same for
happy to come back
people
anytime.
listening. So I'm assuming everyone can find you at Proof to Product on Instagram. Nordstrom. So if you've loved this podcast, go follow Katie Hunt on Proof to Product and check out her labs offer or her paper camp.
Yeah. Yeah. We're at Proof to Product everywhere. So Instagram's where I mostly hang out. So definitely there. Our website is prooftoproduct.com, and you can get those resources I mentioned, the free resources, at prooftoproduct.com/resources. So,
and we will link everything in the show notes so that you can find it easily. Thank you so much, Katie. It was awesome having you on.
Thank you for having me, Kellee. This was a delight.